SUKHI, HOTHU, Dhamma Putris and Dhamma Putras. Today I have another special greeting for you, and that is Subha Vesak. How do you say? Subha Vesak, which means may you have a meaningful and happy Vesak. It's a special day, therefore we have this special greeting today. I'm sure you did not wish each other Subha Vesak. So it's never too late. Wish whoever is near to you Subha Vesak on the right and on the left. And make this a practice. When you come to the Vihara on Vesak day, wish each other Subha Vesak. And that is our culture, that is our heritage, that has been practiced for many, many centuries, over 2,500 years ago. And we have to continue this. Today is a very special day for all of us because it is known to be the thrice sacred day, where on that full moon day in Vesak, the month which coincides with May in the modern calendar, the Buddha was born and he gained enlightenment and he passed away, Mahaparinibbana, on this full moon day. That is how we recognize Vesak as the thrice sacred day in the Buddhist calendar. But today, I want to share with you some thoughts, and I want you to think with me and try and concentrate beyond this aspect, beyond this significance of the birth, enlightenment, and Mahaparinibbana of the Buddha. To us, Vesak is not just an event of 3 important incidents in the life of the Buddha. It means much more than that. It is much more encompassing. And we need to reflect. We need to contemplate. This is the day when we think, what is it that Vesak holds significant to us as Dhamma Putris and Dhamma Putras? How do we relate ourselves to this important day? It is much more deeper in terms of the actual reflections that we get from contemplating on Vesak. When we reflect on Vesak, we bring to mind, we recall all the wonderful things that our heritage, our civilization, our culture holds. And the first unique thing that comes to mind when we reflect on Vesak is the fact that this is a universal celebration. It is a universal celebration. It is a celebration that has cut across a lot of countries all over the world, not just in Subang Jaya, but all over the world. Over 500 million people are with you celebrating this important day. You are not alone, as Michael Jackson's song says. You are not alone. You have so many Dhamma Putras and Dhamma Putris all over the world celebrating with you. And in many of the countries, you will find that there are more and more people embracing the teachings of the Buddha, because we have made it possible for them to read about the Buddha Dhamma. Hitherto, in the past, they never had books, they never had information or no knowledge of the Buddha Dhamma. But today, with internet, with our publications, and this Vihara, the Subang Jaya Buddhist Society, has been very active promoting the Buddha Dhamma, not just in Klang Valley, but across the country and also overseas. So in our little way, we have been helping to promote the understanding and the practice and the practical application of the noble teachings of the Buddha to many parts of the world. And we have many activities to enable our younger generation as well as our older generation to practice and gain and benefit from a deeper understanding of the Buddha Dhamma. I want you to feel unique as Dhammaputris and Dhammaputras because we have been celebrating Vesak in a very unique way. We don't celebrate Vesak by whining and dining and making merry and yamsing and getting drunk and, celebrating in that kind of way. We celebrate Vesak in a very sublime way, in a very compassionate way, because this is the teachings of the Buddha. We celebrate Vesak in the traditional Buddhist countries. They give a lot of alms, a lot of dana, a lot of charity. They show compassion in so many ways. Even in Malaysia, we had practices of releasing birds who are in captivity. We have stopped that because, unfortunately, a lot of people have been exploiting, recatching these birds all over again. Because they have been in captivity for a long time, they are not able to fly. And so we stopped it. But still, we do a lot of other practices. In many countries, for example, they go and release a cow or a lamb which is going to be butchered, slaughtered on that particular day to give life. And they hold dansal. Dansal is open house in the streets, in the villages, all nooks and corners for the whole of the public. Anybody can come and have something to eat. And devotees take a special interest, many devotees take a special interest to take 8 precepts on that day. Not only they rededicate themselves with the 5 precepts to be good lay Buddhists, but they want to do 8 precepts. So in all of these Buddhist countries, you find the celebration to be very meaningful, very purposeful. And in that sense, we are very unique. The reason is because we have been given, we have inherited this culture of Brahma Vihara. Brahma Vihara is a sublime mental state where you bring to mind, you bring to focus your metta, your karuna, your mudita, and your upeka. The minute you have these mental states of karuna, of mudita, of upeka, and metta, then you feel automatically your body is able to allow biochemicals to come out from your body automatically. This is not something that needs to be triggered off. Automatically, the minute you have this sense of Brahma Vihara, biochemicals, endorphins, positive biochemicals come out from your body, and you are cleansed. You are cleansed. You get a free tonic. Your body is in a very good state. And we all know now from modern science and from modern medical research that your body and your mind must coexist. You need to have a healthy body and you need to have a healthy mind. So by coming to the Vihara on Vesak Day, automatically you get this tonic free of charge as you sit down with the other Dhammaputris and Dhammaputras. You are able to imbue this tonic. So whatever we do in terms of our activities on Vesak Day, you are going to be benefiting directly from it. That much you must understand, that much you must reflect on. You are not doing things just because the president has set a program or the monk has told you to do this and do that, but because whatever you do, you are going to benefit. And that is what we have been given in terms of our culture and our practice. Now, apart from that uniqueness in celebrating Vesak, quite different from how other people celebrate their important days by Instead of saving lives, they even slaughter more lives. We don't do those things. Apart from that, we need to understand and we need to reflect on a very important aspect of our teacher, the Buddha. We need to try and focus our mind regarding this personality. Is he real or is he mystical? He is not mystical. He is a very real personage. There are records in history and there are places in India where you find evidence, archaeological evidence of a real person, a historical figure named Prince Siddhartha, who was born in Lumbini. He lived in his palace in Kapilavastu, and he grew up as a prince. It is not mystical. It is a real historical figure. That is important. And there are monuments of his enlightenment and all his important events, happenings throughout his life are all there. Those who have gone on pilgrimage, and I recommend this very much, if you have a chance in your lifetime, please, please make a pilgrimage to these holy places. You get inspired. You feel, you imagine that there is this Buddha who was there, and you are walking in the footsteps of the Buddha, and you come charged with great deal of confidence, great deal of faith and belief in the historical Buddha. So here we need to reflect on this important fact that we are talking of a real historical person. And what about his birth? We celebrate his birth on Vesak Day, but what about his birth? What is special about his birth? Anything special about his birth? Anything special about his birth? Where was he born? Eddie, where was he born? In Lumbini. And what is Lumbini? What is Lumbini? Lumbini is a fabulous place. It is a park. It is a royal garden. Our Siddhartha, our Prince Siddhartha was born in a paradise-like garden. And that's great significance. It was not in some isolated, unknown place, but in a paradise-like garden in early spring, where the flowers were in full blossom, in all kinds of colors, dahlias, roses, carnations, you name it, beautiful. And there were birds and deers and all kinds of insects in harmony, singing in melody, welcoming the birth of the Buddha. How beautiful, how wonderful a birth that is. And it is wonderful and beautiful not only in terms of the scenery, but it is also wonderful and beautiful in terms of the problem that we are facing today. Today we are faced with problems of ecology, of environmental degradation, of climate change, and all kinds of problems of ozone layer and cancer and what have you. But here is the Buddha, little Buddha, a baby Buddha born in nature's beauty. And from the very day he was born, right up to the day he passed from this world, his Mahaparinibbana, he was close to nature. He was close to nature. He never left nature. He loved nature. He loved animals. He loved plants. He spent a lot of times in the parks and in the gardens. And when he renounced, his whole life was with nature. In caves, under the trees, in the forest. That is important for us to understand. That is important for us to reflect. If our teacher had such a feeling and affinity and understanding of the interdependence between human life and nature, surely we must be able to feel the same. We must have the same vibrations. We must have the same values. We must look at nature the same way as our teacher had lived, had actually lived, not just talked about it, he actually lived with nature. That is important. And this message we must tell the rest of the world. We just don't talk. The Buddha didn't just talk. He actually respected and honored and lived with nature because he understood the interdependence, that all of us are part of nature, that he was not away from nature, he was part of nature. And the laws of nature also governed his life. That is important to reflect. And that is a very, very important, significant lesson that we have for the rest of the world. Not just among ourselves, but for all of humanity, because we are in the brink of having a catastrophe in the not too distant future if we don't recognize and adjust ourselves and live according to the laws of nature. So much for his birth. What about his childhood? What was so special about his childhood? What strikes you most about Prince Siddhartha as a child? Lacey, what strikes you most as a child? What was it that strikes you most? Siddhartha as a child. Let us reflect. Pardon? Wonderful. He was a very compassionate child. From childhood, he was very compassionate. Anything else? Anything else? I heard something. Yes? Don't be shy. We are all among friends and family. Anything else? He was compassionate, no question about it. But what is important for us to reflect is that he had an inquiring mind. He had an inquiring mind. He questioned. He asked, how come this is so? Why is this not so? Can it not be different? Why should this be so? How come this is so? All the time asking questions, inquiring, finding out, investigating, probing, all the time, even as a child. Because he asked questions, he was able to think in a different way. He was able to think out of the box, at a lateral level. All of us tend to think the same way as we are taught, all the time, learning like a parrot, regurgitating, or just stating whatever we learn. But here was a child who reflected, who asked questions, and who found out answers by himself. And that is important for us to reflect, because we need to inculcate this culture of inquiry, of investigation, of thinking out of the box, of creating new things, because we are in an age of imagination, an age of creativity, where the horizon is endless, is boundless. And if we don't inculcate this in our children, we will be denying them a wonderful heritage. This is our heritage, this is our culture. We will be denying them this asset, this wonderful asset to excel in life, to be able to bring out their inner talents and skills, because each of our children have talents, different skills. It's up to us to encourage, to promote, and encourage them to question us, question all kinds of things. Don't chase them away. Don't say, if they ask Mama, go and ask Papa. If they ask Papa, go and ask Mama. Mama says, I'm too busy. The child won't ask questions anymore. These are very practical, down-to-earth things. The Buddha himself, in his own life practice, which we need to reflect on, and we need to adopt these practices in our own life. If we are true to his teachings, we have to follow what he actually did. And because he was able to question, he did not follow the norms. If he did Not if he had followed the norms, he would have been still in the same mold as everybody else. There would not have been a Buddha, there would not have been a Dhamma, because he would have been indoctrinated and he would have been just regurgitating whatever was there, practiced at that time. Instead, he questioned the caste system. How can you decide on a status of a person purely by birth? Just because he is born a Brahmin, it doesn't mean that he is high class. But more important is his virtues, his character. That is how you decide, not by birth. He challenged the discrimination of women. He said you cannot discriminate women. In fact, women are more important than men. Mothers are more important than fathers. And the fathers are not going to give birth. It's only the mother who can give birth to a child. I can guarantee you this. None of your sons are going to give birth to any child. So don't give him the chicken leg. When you serve the chicken, don't keep a chicken leg reserved for him. Reserve all the best food for your daughters, because they are the ones who are going to give birth. They are the ones who have to be strong. They are the ones who have to be nourished. Not just before they just give birth. That's too late. From small. That is why I refer to you as Dhammaputris and Dhammaputras. Not Dhammaputras and Dhammaputris. The Putris come before the Putras. If there are no Putris, there won't be any Putras. And this is something the Buddha revolutionized. He changed the thinking in society. He says this is how we should look. And his teachings further reinforce this. He says if you were to put your mother on the right shoulder and the father on the left shoulder for 100 years, you still cannot serve them. But always the mother first. Mata Pitu all the time. All the time. He never had any reservations on the importance of women and the importance of mothers. I have taken this as a mission to promote women more than men, to promote the sacredness of motherhood. And I have tried very hard to try and bring this culture, which is very much in the Chinese culture. In Chinese culture, you have what we call Tai Chiao. I don't know whether I'm pronouncing it correctly. It is Tai Chiao means the formation, the development of the baby in the mother's womb. It is based on the teachings of the Buddha. When the Buddha emphasized the importance of motherhood, he talked about Gabba Parihara. Gabba means fetus, Parihara means protection and development of the fetus. In modern day practice, most of us, what we do is we just look at the physical aspect of the baby, whether the baby, the ultrasound, nice hands, nice feet, body okay, everything okay, only physical. But in Tai Chiao, which was brought from India's knowledge of Gabba Parihara, according to teaching of the Buddha, based on the teaching of the Buddha, we look at the emotional development of this child. We look at the psychological development of this child. We look into the moral, ethical, and spiritual development of the child. It is a holistic development. And we need to promote this because this child is alive in the mother's womb. This child is alive in the mother's womb. The child can hear, the child can feel. Whatever the mother feels, the child automatically feels. It's been proven in science. And the mind is alive. The child's mind doesn't begin to function when the child is grown up. The mind begins to function while the child is in the mother's womb. So these things I have incorporated in one of my books. As I was introduced earlier, I have been trying to promote the practice and practical application of Buddhism, because it's not important for you to know about Buddhism, how you need to practice and how you need to apply Buddhism. This is on mother care and parenting. Here I try to promote the sacredness of motherhood, which is the root of the problem in our society. Our society is gone in a wrong direction because we don't recognize the importance of the sacredness of motherhood, and we fail, the second half of it, we fail to understand that not only is the child 1 year old when the child is born, according to the Chinese culture, according to the Buddhist culture, the child is 1 year old. That's why you celebrate 1 year old. But from the first day right up to about 5 to 6 years old, this is the fastest growing period of the mind. And all kinds of influences get recorded in the child's mind. You get negative behavior automatically, like a computer. Today we have a computer. From the computer we can see. If you put a wrong program inside, if you put a virus program, you get something kaput. But if you have a wholesome program, you get a wholesome output. So all these things are there. I don't have much time to share with you, but we need to look into these things. And this is a good day to reflect. Fathers, mothers, please reflect on this, that you are responsible for your child, even before the child is born. And after the child is born, you continue to be responsible. You brought them to this world, and we must continue this responsibility and duty. And that is a reflection that we need to focus on as parents. Because the Buddha Dhamma is not just an abstract kind of teaching where you come with knowledge of suttas, you come knowledge of the chanting, and then you start discussing all kinds of abstract things. The Buddha Dhamma, which the Buddha taught, is very practical, down to earth for your life here and now. Here and now. Not just in terms of knowing a number of facts or number of suttas, a number of texts, but to understand and practice these things here and now. So in that sense, it's very fantastic that we have this Buddha who is able to bring so much of relevance to our life, so much of meaning to our life. The other aspects that we need to look at and to reflect upon on this special Vesak day is the fact of the Dhamma itself. The Dhamma itself. And what is this Dhamma? This Dhamma that he had unraveled to us was in his life, in his very life. He did not get it from somewhere else. He did not pluck it from the air. He did not get it from some external being. It was not revealed to him. The Dhamma is not revealed. The Dhamma was practiced. The Dhamma was experienced. The Dhamma was experimented. When he left the palace in search of the truth, to unravel, to find out a way out of dukkha and to find the path to sukha, he went through all kinds of practices, and it is based on actual experience, his own experience in his life, that he had gone to the extent of even taking self-mortification, following self-mortification, where he was brought or reduced to mere bones and skin, and he collapsed and nearly died on the river Niranjana. To that extent he went. Then he realized that these extremes in practice are not going to bring him anywhere nearer to enlightenment, and he followed the middle path. Majjhima Patipada, the middle path, not the extremes. And we need to have balance in our life. This middle path is a lesson for us to have a balance in our life in all of the things that we do. Not just in relation to what you do in the vihara or in relation to your religion, but in everything you do in your life. He showed us that we need to follow a middle path. If you follow a middle path, you will not get into problems. Now, many of us are seeking for a good life. Many of us are seeking for a well-being, a healthy life, and many of us are seeking for happiness. But how do you get this? We seek for it, but how do you get it? Where is it? Can we buy it from a shop? Can we get it from the vihara? No, we can't. What we need to do is to look at our culture and our civilization and our heritage. And on this particular day, we are able to recall the richness of our civilization. Our civilization is such that we have not seen a single drop of blood being spilled in the name of the Buddha Dhamma. That is our civilization. Our civilization is a civilization that has given all kinds of opportunities and inspiration for creativity. The beautiful monuments in Buddha Gaya, in Saranath, in Sanchi, in Ajanta, in Ellora, Borobudur, Angkor Wat, and the beautiful cave temples in China, in Korea, in Sri Lanka, Anuradhapura, Polonnaruwa, and even in Malaysia. If you look at the historical sites, you'll find a lot of Buddhist monuments and statues, iconography. What Buddhism did was to explode, give an explosion of creativity, of cultural as well as artistic talents in literature, in song, in dance, all the finest things in life. And if we are able to see this, we should be able to produce within ourselves these kinds of talents and abilities. The most important period in Chinese history, for example, is, or rather the most creative period in Chinese history is the Sung and Tang dynasty. That was when Buddhism was in the uppermost. The height of Buddhism in Chinese history was during the Sung and Tang dynasty. That is why you have the flowering of Chinese culture during those two periods. So if we can imbue ourselves with these realities, these truths, these facts, we should be able, through our reflection, to come up to some level and to be able to show that we too can make a contribution, because this has been produced, this has been the response of your ancestors. Therefore, we should not be far behind. We too should be able to make some contribution. We tend to feel that Buddhism is something that is very personal, is very individualistic. This is a wrong perception. And today we need to reflect that actually what the Buddha wanted was a community of followers, not individuals. We tend to think that, Buddhism is something that I do for myself and I don't bother about others. That is the complete opposite of what the Buddha taught. So we tend to promote in this vihara particularly greater fellowship, greater closeness among our community. The word Sangha means community. And he had a beautiful understanding of community. He referred to community in its best or pristine form in terms of samagga, that you should be as close as possible, like you are kinsmen, that you are like related to each other. You are not strangers. And this culture we need to develop. Unfortunately, we find that there is not enough. There is much more room for fellowship and closer gatherings, affinity Not only just when you come to the vihara, but wherever you are, in your own environment, in your own neighborhood, whenever you have any other families who are Dhammaputras and Dhammaputris, make it a point to be close. And he had some very beautiful, beautiful sermons on this aspect of our life, that we are not to think and behave as individuals, but we need to think in terms of our common understanding, our common interests, our common goals and aspirations. And that's why he encouraged another concept which is very, very relevant, but not enough of practice in it, the practice of Kalyanamitra. Each of you are virtuous in your own ways. Each of you can be a wonderful friend to whoever who's sitting beside you. I always see this group always coming to the vihara together. It's because they are Kalyanamitras. They know if they have some problems, they can talk to somebody. They know that if there are some difficulties, they can get some help. And they enjoy their company, and they know that they can have mudita. They can celebrate somebody else's success, somebody else's achievements, happiness. Your happiness is my happiness as well. If you're sad, I feel sad for you. That is the meaning of community. That is what we need to do. We need to put this into real life. So please, I beg you, if you value today as the most important day, dedicate yourself, reaffirm yourself on this day that you will bring all these wonderful teachings, all these wonderful aspects of our culture and our heritage. This belongs to you. This is yours. When you say you are a Dhammaputri and a Dhammaputra, all of what I say belongs to you automatically. Automatically. And you can walk tall, you can stand tall, you can feel confident that you are a follower of a religious world, I don't say community, of a religious world, who is recognized as a flower of humankind, who is honored as the fragrance of humankind. And the Dhamma that he bequeathed to you is akalika. It is timeless and it is universal because it is based on reality, on the reality of nature, on the reality of life. That we all are impermanent, that we all have a body, we all have a mind, that our body needs a healthy mind and a healthy mind needs a healthy body. These are realities irrespective of whether you are a Dhammaputri or Dhammaputra or not. Even if you're not, whether you like it or not, you all have these realities. That is the beauty of his teachings. You have these realities irrespective of your background. It applies to all of us. The minute you are a human being, which we refer to as manusya, the word manusya means one who has a mind which can be developed. That is the meaning of manusya. If we don't have a developed mind, we don't qualify to be a manusya. What are we then? We are animals. The difference between a human being and an animal is the human being has got a mind which can be developed and can be cultured and can be cultivated, which is what is the essence of the Buddha's teaching, the cultivation of the mind, and the other is the animal. That is why you are referred to as human beings. You have to be human. The minute you are not being human, then you are an animal. So Dhammaputris and Dhammaputras, thank you for listening to me patiently. I have one other thing to do, and that is all said and done. These past few months, I think, in the newspapers, we have been hearing about fathers and mothers is very sad, being neglected, left on the streets and deserted by the children. In Chinese culture, filial piety is in your blood. If you say you're a Chinese, you must have filial piety. You worship 4 generations, 5 generations, and for centuries we have had this culture, a Buddhist culture. But today we have to pass laws. So I wrote this book upon filial piety, how an elephant looked after the blind mother. And we hope that as adults, we will pass this culture to our children so that we won't have this situation of neglecting the parents in the twilight years. So I'm distributing this. If somebody can help, please. Distribute it, please, to everybody. And let's hope that we will have a culture which is completely free of all of these things. Then we can hold our heads high and say that we have passed on this culture of looking after parents. They brought us, they look after us, they sacrificed so much, we have to take care of them. Can you please distribute? Actually, 1 hour is not enough for a talk of this nature, but I had to rush through a number of points. There's so much more to talk. Maybe you want to ask some special questions or special clarifications. Don't feel shy. Ask anything you like. Any questions, please? Yes.
In the book, he said, I think he was telling a story to the children.
Yes.
Where he said it was the dust, it was the worm, it was the insect,
Yes.
it was the tree.
Yes.
I'm just wondering what it meant.
That he was, is it?
Yeah.
Well, in the life of the Buddha, of course, there are many Jataka stories. There are already Jataka stories, 500 over Jataka stories of his past lives. So in our understanding of life, life is a continuum. It is not one life. We have lived countless lives, and he himself has lived very many lives. And therefore, maybe in that context he was talking. Because we are not an entity that has come to this world without a background. We need to understand that the minute we are born, that we have accumulated a lot of karma based on what we did and what we did not do in our previous lives. That is why we are not born the same. That explains why we are different in our looks, in our talents, in our abilities, in our own good fortune and bad fortune. We can explain all of these things. Why is it that I should be born in this particular family? Why should so and so be born crippled or handicapped? Why should a child be stillborn? So these are explanations that we can accept, because otherwise, if you were to make me a creator, I can guarantee you I'll make all of you happy. All of you, will have everything you want. Because if you give me the power, I will do it. I can't imagine myself creating something which is going to be suffering and which is going to be painful, which is going to be sad. It doesn't make sense. Apart from that, the other thing is that when you talk in terms of action and reaction, which is very scientific, every action has a reaction. The law of karma conforms very closely to science, modern science. There cannot be a thing that happens without something before. Nothing happens out of nothing. So there must be a causality in all the things that happen in this world. Natural things and unnatural things. It cannot be something that has been forced upon or just by some external power or some external being. So that is important in understanding. And in his own life, he has explained, just like he explained to these children, many instances of happenings in the context of the law of karma. It's a universal law. Just like you have the law of gravity, which you can't see, but it's there. You know gravity is there, but you can't see it. But you can't say it's not there. You know there is a magnetic field, but you can't say it's not there, although you can't see it. Similarly, the law of karma, the law of cause and effect, there is this law that is operating automatically. Automatically it operates. And it's up to us to develop ourselves so that it is in a positive mode. Because the benefits are going to come to you either in this life, here and now, or in your next life. But we don't pay all the attention to our next life. We pay attention to our this life, so that the next life will take care of itself. All the more reason why we need to dedicate ourselves on this Vesak day. We reaffirm ourselves. We confirm, we reinforce our belief, our Shraddha. And this Shraddha is a very, very, very powerful thing. How many of you know what Shraddha is? Shraddha? Shraddha means confidence. Shraddha means confidence, faith. But we must be careful. We must be able to understand that the Shraddha that the Buddha taught was not an ordinary Shraddha. It is not a blind faith we are talking about. There are many people who ask you to believe in a lot of things. You just believe because I say. You just close your eyes and believe. No. That is not what the Buddha taught us. The Buddha said, believe with understanding. You have to understand. You have to know first, not blind faith, but faith based on confidence that is being very clearly understood by you. Once you have this confidence, there is a lot of things you can succeed. His whole renunciation, he renounced his life from palace and went out to search for the ultimate truth, was propelled, was driven by Shraddha. He believed that he can find this. He believed in himself. And all these modern gurus, Zig Ziglar, Napoleon Hill, Anthony Robbins, Stephen Covey, they come and tell you for 5,000 ringgit or 10,000 ringgit, oh, you must believe in yourself. But I heard this many, many years ago. 2,500 years ago, the Buddha had talked about this. You have to have this Shraddha. And it is his Shraddha that drove him and made him face, encounter a lot of obstacles, and yet he was able to overcome them. If not for his Shraddha, he wouldn't have gone out to spread the Dhamma. And that's a very wonderful chapter, which I don't have time. After getting enlightenment, how he spread the Dhamma. The life of the Buddha after enlightenment is another fabulous, fabulous episode. Based on Shraddha, he believed that you are able to understand and benefit from the Dhamma. That's why for 45 years he crisscrossed all of India, northeastern India. He walked from village to village, from town to town, from city to city, from country to country. Because he believed that you can benefit, and surely you can benefit. I have surely benefited. I can tell you that I have benefited from the Dhamma, from being brought up in a Buddhist family. My parents are very Buddhist, and I have been brought up in that way. The Dhamma is in my blood. It's second nature to me. That's why I'm standing in front of you and talking to you. If not for my upbringing, if not for my own Shraddha, I won't be a successful person, because I come from a very humble family. It's the Shraddha that drove me, that made me say, I must. Even if I have only to be a successful child to look after my parents. That was enough Shraddha, that was enough energy to make me go. And I am not a person who was born in a bed of roses, but I never gave up. I never gave up. And even now, I feel young, I don't feel old. And I'm doing nothing but just Dhamma work because of the Shraddha. So it's fantastic. I think that's all for tonight. So I promise you many more Dhamma talks, but you have to keep your promise. You have dedicated yourself tonight to reaffirm your Shraddha and to rededicate yourself to the Buddha Dhamma. The only way you can prove is to come to this vihara. We have Dhamma talks every Sunday, and we have many other activities. Feel free. You are part of family. Feel welcome. SUKHI HOTHU, Dhammaputris and Dhammaputras.